So, ladies and gentlemen, in 2023, in the United States especially, the gun lobby is causing a whole bunch of people not responsible or basically off the rails to use guns in violent acts. But this was not a new thing. In 1968, one of the most effective documentary style movies, kind of real lifestyle, was called Targets by Peter Bogdanovich. Now, this came out in 68. It was his directorial debut, which led to greater success for the late director. It starred Tim O'Kelly, the great Boris Karloff, Arthur Peterson, Nancy Shue, and Monty Landis. The film depicts two parallel narratives which converge to the climax. One follows Bobby Thompson, a seemingly ordinary, wholesome young man who embarks on an unprovoked thrill-kill spree. The other depicts Byron Orlock, an iconic horror film actor who was disillusioned by real-life violence and is contemplating retirement. Now, produced by Corman and written by Polly Platt and Bogdanovich, the film was loosely inspired by Charles Whitman, a mass shooter who committed the tower shooting, killing numerous people at the University of Texas in 1966. The film was shot over less than 3 weeks in late 1967 in the LA area. Now, released by Paramount after the assassinations of Martin Luther King Jr. and Robert F. Kennedy, who paid $150,000 for the budgeted $130,000 film. The studio's executive chose to market the film as a commentary on gun violence in the United States, and it bombed. Despite its commercial failure, the film received general positive reviews. It was included in the 2003 book, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. Now, in the movie, Byron Orlock, an age-embittered horror movie actor, abruptly announced his decision to retire from Hollywood and return to his native England to live out his final days. Orlock considers himself outdated because he believes that people are no longer frightened by old-fashioned horror, citing real-life news stories as more horrifying than anything in his films. However, after much persuasion, particularly from young director Sammy Michaels, Orlock agrees to make a final in-person promo appearance at a Reseda drive-in theater before leaving Hollywood for good. Now, Thompson is a young, quiet, clean-cut insurance agent and Vietnam War vet who lives in a suburban San Diego Valley area with his wife and his parents. But his personality is starting to show. He's starting to crack. He's, according to the plot, he's deeply disturbed and an obsessive gun collector, but his family takes little notice. He eventually prepares for what he's going to do by buying a whole bunch of gun and ammunitions and practice on the range. And in one scene, he pretends he's going to kill his father with a long gun sight. Now, one morning after his said father leaves for work, he murders his wife, his mother, and the delivery boy at his home, leaving a cryptic half-suicide note, half-explanation in the family typewriter. That afternoon, Thompson continues his killing spree, shooting numerous people in passing cars from atop an old storage tank that sits alongside a heavily traveled freeway. When an employee at the storage tank comes up to investigate the shots, Thompson shoots him as well. Leaving some of his guns and ammo at the crime scene, Thompson flees to the very same drive-in theater with the cops in pursuit, where Orlock is set to appear later that evening. Now, after sunset, Thompson starts shooting and kills the theater's projectionist and perches himself on the framing inside the screen tower. While the Orlock film is shown, Thompson aims and shoots at the patrons in and around the parking lot via a hole in the projection screen. After Thompson wounds Orlock's secretary, Jenny, Orlock confronts Thompson by walking up to him, but at the time, Thompson is disorientated by Orlock's simultaneous appearance before him and on a large movie screen behind him, allowing the actor to disarm Thompson using his walking cane. Looking at the now defeated Thompson, who is in a fetal position, a visibly shaken Orlock remarks, "Is that what I was afraid of?" Moments later, police officers arrive to arrest Thompson for the murders he has committed. As he leads them away in one of the last lines of the movie, Thompson states with apparent satisfaction that he hardly ever missed. Now, the characters and actions of Thompson, again, are based on Whitman. Now, Orlock's character is named after the Max Schreck's vampire in Nosferatu, was based on Karloff himself, with a fictional component on being embittered with the movie business and wanting to retire. The role was Karloff's last appearance in a major American film. Now, a lot of people thought he was going to get a Best Supporting Actor nomination because Karloff did give a celebrated 100-second single-take performance of the classic W. Somerset Maugham's retelling of the Babylonian fable, Appointment in Samara. Now, in the film's finale at the drive-in, Orlock, the old-fashioned traditional screen monster, always obeyed a rule. again, a clean-cut, unassuming murderer. Now, Bogdanovich got a chance to make targets because Karloff owed studio head Roger Corman 2 days' work. Corman told Bogdanovich he could make the film any film he liked, provided he used Karloff and stayed under budget. In addition, Bogdanovich used the clips from Corman's Napoleonic-era thriller, The Terror in the Movie. The clips from The Terror feature Jack Nicholson, Dick Miller, and Karloff. A brief clip of Howard Hawks' 31 film, The Criminal Code, featuring Karloff, was also used. Platt was also the film's production designer, in addition developing the story, as it was our idea to set the ending at a drive-in movie theater. And I don't think a drive-in movie, multiple murder, would draw a lot of people to drive-in and freak a lot of people out. I think that's really why it bombed. Bogdanovich has said that Samuel Fuller provided generous help in a screenplay and refused to accept either fee or screen credit. So Bogdanovich named his own character Sammy Michaels. Fuller's middle name was Michael, in tribute. Fuller advised Bogdanovich to save as much money in the film's budget as possible for the film to have an action-packed conclusion. Now, Kelly was cast via an audition, while Nancy Shue had appeared in John Ford Shine Autumn and got the part. Now, filmed in L.A. between November 27, 67 and December 15, 67, interior sequences were shot on makeshift sound stages and including a lumberyard building in Santa Monica. Now, he had premiered in New York City on August 13th, then showed up at Edinburgh Film Festival in September of that year. Now, AIP offered to release it, but Bogdanovich wanted to try to see if the film could get a deal with a major studio. It was seen by Robert Evans of Paramount, who bought it on site for $150,000, giving Corman an instant profit on the movie before it was even released. Although the film was written and produced and production photography completed in late 67, it was not released until after the assassinations of MLK and Robert F. Kennedy in the summer of 68, thus having some topical reference and relevance to the then current events. Executives for Paramount, unsure how the film would be received by the public, marketed in a manner that portrayed it as a political film commenting on firearms, which alienated from the public, resulting in becoming a box office failure. Now, I've never seen the final rentals for this, but I don't think it would pass 5 figures. Now, Bogdanovich appears in the film as a young writer-director, credits it at getting him noticed by the studios, which in turn led to his directing 3 very successful studio films that followed: The Last Picture Show, What's Up Doc, and Paper Moon in the early 70s. Now, ironically, 5 years after its release, New Zealand refused to issue a certificate of approval for the film's trailer on the basis that it was contrary to public order and decency, because there's a scene where basically he says, "What are you going to do with all this ammunition?" He said, "I'm going to shoot some pigs." Reviews were mixed. Roger Ebert gave it the film 2.5 stars out of 4, saying it isn't a very good film, but it's an interesting one. Howard Thompson called the film an original, brilliant melodrama. And in 2020, Quentin Tarantino called Targets the most political movie Corman ever made since The Intruder. It was one of the most powerful films of 68 and one of the greatest directorial debuts of all time, and I believe the best film ever produced by Roger Corman. I tend to agree. Paramount released it on DVD in 2003 as part of their value process, and the film was remastered and released in 2023 as part of the Criterion Collection, and of course being shown on Hollywood Suite in Canada this month, which has been shown in recent days. Now, when I first saw Targets, I said to myself, geez, this is some pretty bizarre stuff, because nobody, I think, did a movie about a mass shooting or shooter at a drive-in. And the last 15 or 20 minutes, if you're showing this at a drive-in, boys, oh boys, that could freak you out. You won't be eating popcorn. But ladies and gentlemen, it's bloody but not bloody. But the amount of accuracy that the Bobby Thompson character shows, he has high-powered rifles, and a lot of people have been murdered in recent years in mass shootings using the same techniques. So should the movie be banned because it gives an opportunity for these people to see a movie like this and use it as a practice, and it riles people up as PTSD? It's just a movie of its times. It's not the first movie against guns, and it's not the first movie to show the impact, no pun intended, of guns in the wrong people. I would give it 3 stars out of 4. Boris Karloff has always been someone I looked up to, from Frankenstein to these last performances. Just a tremendous actor. But the story about death in Samara, boys, it just chills you. And you know how good that Karloff was with fairy tales. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what we're doing with our vintage podcast, especially the 1960s movies, let us know with a like, comment, subscribe, or share. And don't forget, don't turn out the lights.